Welcome to the Dugout with Ed and Dan. Today we have none other than Gary Parris, the athlete of the century from Vero Beach. A softball player, a football player, an all around politician, and all around athlete. Gary Parris.
I've got that lightning inside me. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. Cranking up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the.
There you go.
Secret, huh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I didn't know about you going through this thing. So you were born June 13th in East Illinois, St. Louis, Illinois. He later moved to Melbourne, Florida. When was that you moved to Melbourne? I'm not Melbourne, Florida, but Vero Beach, Florida.
I came back in I've been here before one time. My dad was in the service, but I came back in 1960.
60. Yeah, okay. I came to Florida in 1961. Another thing in common, Kate, you attended Vero Beach High School, where was a great athlete, and we're going to talk more about that as we get through it. But the things that you've accomplished, Gary, you went to FSU on a scholarship. And who was the coach then?
Bill Peterson was our coach, and then Larry Jones finished up.
Jones. Had a hell of a career there because you got drafted 15th round in the NFL. Spent 8 years in the NFL. After returning, you became a Vero Beach councilman. You were president of the Little League. You were high school football coach, booster club president, deacon in your church, still to this day. You were the athlete of the century. We'll have to talk more about that for sure. You married your high school sweetheart. 54 years of marriage. That's a heck of a record right there, buddy. You have 4 children. I know Matt and JT. Who are the other 2?
I got 2 daughters, Heather and Kelly.
Oh, okay. We'll talk some about 9 grandchildren.
Yeah.
I think, you got me beat on that too. And you're you tell me you're currently living the life of broadcasting. And you got a heck of a career in broadcasting, huh? 41 years on the Christian station.
Doing high school basketball, high school football, yes.
Yeah, and that station is WSCF 91.9. There was another one that I don't.
It used to be WTTB. Used to have it.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you have 30 years of UCF broadcasting.
Absolutely fantastic. I've enjoyed every year of that. Looking forward to this year because we're going into the Big 12, and
that's going to be exciting. Huh?
I've gone from Division II now through to Power 5, so it's exciting.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that, right, Dan?
Yes,
You're a
sir.
big football lover there. And Gary, what didn't come up, and even aren't you the VP of marketing for a citrus company?
I spent when I retired, I spent over 30 some odd years, almost 37 years, as in the citrus business, and we sold watermelon, citrus, and vegetables and produce companies. Since then, the citrus business is kind of in the state of Florida, and I retired when I saw all that coming. I'm out of it now, so I'm semi-retired. When you broadcast, you're involved with that, it's part of your life you love. It's the job that you love going to. It's a job.
The broadcasting.
The broadcasting.
Yeah.
You do a lot of studying. You got to know a lot of pronunciation of names that hardest game.
I couldn't do it.
Well, the hardest game we won't get into was we played University of Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark Daniels said to me real quick, he says, Mark, I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing these names. He said, Gary, our game's at 7 o'clock in Hawaii. You know what time that is in Orlando? it's going to be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. How many people do you think are going to be listening to that? Call them what you want to.
Yeah, I would. Wow. Yeah, Mark Daniels, and that guy he's on his game. You know,
He's outstanding.
he is unbelievable. But I could talk probably for hours just on your announcing stories and stuff. And like I told my man Dan, we won't have a problem getting any stories out of Gary. You've always been a talker. But this is the basis of this show is somewhat softball and sports, but we call it a dugout because we can talk about anything in the dugout. And I wanted to get to a person like you in terms of what you've contributed to society, to your community, not only from the softball. Softball's just a sport we all play, but softball players are more than just playing a game of softball, as people find listening to your story. But before we get into the real interesting stuff, let's just talk about softball.
Old days with me and you. Because I look back and I remember that, but boy, that was like 40 years ago.
Or more. And, it's kind of like you were from Brevard County and I was from Indian River County.
Right.
And it would be like the north to south. You cross that line and you're in our territory. If we crossed that line north, we were in y'all's territory.
Yeah.
We had some great games, great competition, a bunch of good athletes on both sides, and it was fun. It was literally fun to play the game when we were younger, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my family. We'd make a big weekend out of it. The kids and my wife, they would go down to the pool. Then they'd get over to a game every now and then to watch us play. We played all day. And our big thing was that, hey, let's have fun. Let's go out there to win. And you won a lot more than you lost, and we did too.
Yeah, well, the competition between us, just continued over the years, and now in senior ball, a lot of guys that we were competing against are now, now it's shrunk down. We're all playing together. But thinking of you started playing when you came back from the NFL, right?
Well, actually, I played a little bit during the NFL.
Okay, that's
and then when I retired, I came back and I said, hey, I'm going to get it. I got to do something. I enjoyed it. I love playing golf, but I love playing softball. And as Dan and I were talking about before we went on the air, was that the camaraderie of a softball team is amazing. It makes up the chemistry. You put the right combination of guys and their families. So when you go to a tournament on the weekend, you want everybody to get along. Wives, you want the kids. You just make your team kind of one of those teams that it's woven together as a group. And the tighter you make that, the better off you're going to be. Wives, players, and the success and traveling. And it was a lot of fun. My wife talks about the old memories with summer vacations with softball tournaments. We go to Tennessee, or we go to Georgia or to North Carolina or whatever. But that was our summer vacations.
Yeah, let me bring Dan in here because you talk about the camaraderie of softball back in the day. But Dan plays with your son, Matt, and Matt's a great player, just like his father was. That'd be interesting discussions. He was a better one, but Dan, tell us how about his son, Matt? What kind of ball player is he?
No, he's a good player. Good defensively, can hit fast, and he's a good guy like that.
Oh, thank you very much. He's at his age, I couldn't do what he's doing right now at the same age. I mean, when you're 52 years old or 51 or whatever, hell, I don't want to give him too old. He's 51, I think. And he plays the game hard. He was playing basketball last night. He said, I'm going to go over after he got off. He's a chiropractor. He came out of the office and said, what are you doing today? I'm going to go play some basketball over at the church gym. And he's still active and he loves it. He always talks about your son, Scott, playing with Scott as I played with you and against you. He talks about the relationship that you guys have. And again, those are lifelong. Here we are. I mean, you and I, 40 years later, still talking to each other. And and enjoyed and memorized, just going back and having fun with the old days when we talked about, how different the game was. I can remember watching. We all wore the long tube socks. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
It was embarrassing to go back and look at.
That is funny. And we were all so much skinnier.
Yeah, we were much skinnier.
Yeah, I have a lot of good memories about you, Gary, because, and I think I told you on the phone earlier this morning when I talked to you, you remind me of Ray Fleetwood in your personality, jovial. And although you quit the game, at what age? Because we played together in the 35 and 40s a little bit.
Yeah, I got to the point where when I was about 44, 45, it just wasn't. I wanted to get back into golf then. That's when I started. But that's when I pulled a bad hamstring. You're supposed to stretch. You're an athlete. You're supposed to know that. And I'm over in St. Pete playing in a tournament of 45 and olders, and I.
You might have been playing with me.
Yeah, I think we were.
Yeah.
And I took off from second base on a base hit, and I was turning third, and I just tore my hamstring. And you go, nah, this is not worth it. This is I still got a job to do. I'm managing. I run a produce company, and here I am. Could be lined up and trying to go in and tell everybody, how'd you do that? Well, playing softball. What are you doing playing softball at your age? But no, we had a lot of fun, and it was fun, and it was a game that I loved to play. I just literally, it was one of the things that I look forward to, as I told you earlier, that was fun. It was fun playing with you, playing against you, playing all over the country. We traveled all over. We wouldn't have been to California, I've been to Las Vegas, I've been to Denver, I've been to all over the country to play softball. And I think one of the big thrills I had one time was going back to Cleveland, having played for the Browns for 5
softball.
And playing softball there.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to ask you, Gary, I don't know if I asked you back when you were younger, but when you were coaching there at Vero Beach High School, when you recruited coaches, did you recruit them to coach or play softball?
Well, Billy Libbins was our head coach.
I know, what a great player he was.
Billy was a great softball player. And I was a volunteer on his staff, and he and I would, one of the things I said to him, and this is a true story, when you recruit a coach, ask him if he plays softball. And we had like four Vero Beach High School coaches that played on our team, and they could hit the ball.
Oh yes, they could. I'm here to verify that, dude. That was, and they were big old boys, as G.T. Mercer. You ever heard of R.D. Mercer? You ever heard of that guy, R.D. Mercer?
Yes. You brought up Ray Fleetwood. I was a great fan. I loved what Ray. Only bad thing about Ray, he went to Florida. and I went to Florida State, you know what I mean? Yeah. But Ray Fleetwood had the most unique home run trot in all of softball.
Yes.
It would aggravate everybody.
Yes.
And I can remember playing third base and watching him take, the first time I was playing third and I watched him do that little waddle he does all the way around the bases and everything. And I said, there should be a 15-yard penalty, not for the trot, but how long it took you to get around the bases.
I asked him about that, and he said his famous statement was, "Look, guys, I'm going to enjoy this. This may be the last one I ever hit."
Yeah, right. That guy, but it was unique. And again, as big as he was, and as he still was a nice guy. He really was a nice guy to get to know him.
Oh, and I had the opportunity. I've had a great softball career in the context of when I got older. I ended up playing with all these guys who were my role models, the guys I envied. Remember Mike Nye? Remember that?
Oh yeah, sure.
We played together, Bruce Meade, and of course Fleetwood. I'll tell you a little story, but this is the one I love to tell. When I played with Fleetwood, I really got to like him because, again, he had a very good personality. It was funny, like you. I mean, that's why I'm saying it. Richie Moore, you remember Richie Moore?
Yes, I do.
Richie Moore managed our 40 and over team. And he liked me, you know, and I think he thought my skills were a little better than they were. But I remember one time we were playing 35 and over up in Daytona, and Richie had me in a lineup backing up Fleetwood. And the players said, "What the hell's Rose batting up Fleetwood for?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, why am I backing up Fleetwood? But it pissed me off a little bit because I'm a pretty good hitter.
Yeah.
And so, as the case may be, that later on in the game, they walked Fleetwood to get to me, right?
Yeah.
I hit it out to right field, dude, and ran around the bases. What do you think I said, dude? You know me well. What do you think I said? That's why I'm backing up.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Dan, you've gotten to know Ed. Either you liked it or you didn't like it, okay? I mean, that's how competitive. I was telling you a story. You flip a coin. He hated to lose the flip on a coin. But you loved his competitiveness. I mean, he wanted everybody to have that same just he did about the game, the love for the game. And it was, if you didn't quite have it, he'd get a little upset with you. And so you love to beat him.
Yeah.
Because you see him over there, he just, you know, you can't believe we got beat by that bunch like this, you know, and no matter what, we hit like 22 home runs and he, you know, something like that. And he goes, I can't believe we, you know, but he was so competitive. And I really, as the years went on, I became a big fan of his. And and he's won more national championships than anybody I've known over the years. The guy takes the game, loves it, and still, he's probably still getting championships.
He is.
Well, that's true. But the one thing about Gary here, and we're going to move on, you know, because Gary, although he quit softball, he could have easily been a legend in the game of softball because he could hit it, dude. I'm telling you, hit as good as anybody I know, you know. And he was always funny about it. He always had great stories. And you know what? You are always. You're always somebody I admire, dude.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And there's a lot of reason for it because the guy's a tremendous athlete. Let's go back to high school because that's an interesting chapter in your life, my friend. Tell me what you did in high school. I mean, you became the athlete of the century, not just the decade, dude. Is the century 100 years?
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel! Tell me about it.
Well, you know, I'm humbled by it, and there's a lot of great athletes that played during the time I played in that my decade and the decades before and after at Vero Beach High School. To be chosen, that was a great honor, and it's something I will always remember. And I thank all those that pushed me and helped me to get there. But I was a 4-sport player back in the day. Today, you know, you hardly find a kid playing 2 sports, let alone 4 sports.
Did you have a favorite?
I really did, and believe it or not, and everybody think, oh, you're going to say football. No, my favorite was baseball because I was a catcher, and as a catcher, you had to talk to that pitcher. You had to set the defense. You had to set you had to remember what that player did the time before. It was you were like the quarterback of the field, and I loved playing in high school as a catcher. My second favorite sport then was basketball because I loved playing basketball. I just loved.
What are you, 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah,
6'3",
yeah, and I loved playing it. And back then I was a great rebounder and had a decent. If we'd had a 3-point shot, I probably would have done a lot better because I was taking them outside shots. I was going to let everybody. But I enjoyed the high school sport, and I played with everything I got. You know, I just had fun, and it was moving on to the next sport.
Well, we got to share one story you told me earlier, but I've never, you know, I've seen people play 4 sports in high school, you know, but tell me the story about how you competed in a track meet while you're still playing catcher in a game.
We were at the district championship was in Vero Beach for track. Now at Vero High School, the track was on by the football field, was around the football, was there inside the football stadium and all, and across the road was a baseball stadium. All right, now I qualified in the district in 3 events. I qualified in long jump, a high jump, and I was in one of the relay races called the sprint medley, they used to call it. And so how were we going to work this out? Well, I had to, the lucky thing was they started the track meet at 5 o'clock, and the baseball game didn't start till 7 o'clock. So what happened was I would loosen up, I'd first jump, I'd be out of no baseball uniform on, I'd be in a track uniform, and I would do the high jump, and I did the long jump. But there was a lot of teams, so it took forever to get back to your second round so that you do it. So I had to jump the second time, both sides, and so then it got real testy because I had to pass. I had to make a pass, which means I wasn't out, but I could pass to, like, say, for example, if I jumped 6'3" in the high jump at that time, I would make a pass to 5'11". So when it got to 5'11", then
You passed.
I would pass. Then in the long jump, I would have to pass if it, if it got to 18, 19 feet, I would have to come back and jump on that. And we had a trainer running back and forth letting me know, and the baseball coach was very gracious about it because he used to coach track at one time. So the two events, then it happened. I had to run over, and I had my baseball uniform on, and I had my track underneath but I didn't have time to. I just put on my shoes, went over there, and we wrapped tape around my baseball uniform so it wouldn't hit the bar. And I was competing now. If I make it, I win. If I miss it, I got another jump. So, but that jump meant I may have to stick miss it because I had to go back over and play in a big baseball game. And so I made it. Okay, so I ended up winning the high jump.
You won the high jump.
I finished second in the long jump. And then I went back and the sprint medley was the last thing. That's a guy runs 100, a guy runs 200, a guy runs 300, and a guy runs 440. And I'm all set for the 330, okay? And I just finished the game. We finished our baseball game. And so I come across to the track, and they're calling us, you're on deck, this is the sprint medley, last event of the track meet. And I'm sitting there going, okay, guys, I'm tired. I've caught a whole baseball game. I've done the long jump. So let's go out and win this thing. Well, the guy that runs the 440 pulls a muscle in his race. Well, we have nobody to run a 440. So several guys, 220 guys could run a 330. I ran the 330. Okay, now I'm thinking I can do a 330 and I have no problem. But a 440, oh my, I'm dead tired. My legs will be tired because I've squatted and caught a whole game. Got to the vent, put me out there on the 440, and I'm going, we better have a big lead.
Did you?
No. When I got the baton, we were in third place, and I'm sitting there, and honest to goodness, I gave it everything I had, and I got to the 330 mark. I had caught the guys, and I'm trying as we make the turn to head home, and about 100 yards out, I ran out of gas. It just literally, I could not. I didn't have any pep. I didn't have a kick. I didn't have anything I really needed. We finished third, and I did, and so to make a long story, it was a great evening for Bureau. We won the district, but I didn't win the
team won, though, right?
The team won.
That's historic. I never heard anything
Maybe
like
that's
that,
why
but
he's the athlete of the century.
I guess. Is there anything you're not good at?
Well, no, there have been some days in golf.
Poker.
Yeah.
You did a poker?
No, I don't play poker.
Well, listen. So how'd that work for your scholarship? Did they look at that one?
Well, I tell you what, Vero Beach, my senior, I committed to the University of Florida when I was a sophomore. I was Miami Herald's sophomore of the year for the state of Florida. So I had caught like 40 passes or something as a wide receiver, but I really was going to play tight end, and everybody knew that, and I did too. But back then we had a tight end, was slower than, and I was playing wide receiver. So I had a great year, and I had Florida come down, and man, there was, all of a sudden this coach shows up, and from Florida, and named Ray Graves or something
Ray
like
Graves,
that.
that's Ray Graves, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Graves.
he shows up at
He's famous back then.
he shows up and watches me at a spring practice, and he goes, University of Florida would like to offer you a scholarship when you graduate in 2 years. And I said, really? Because I grew up as a Gator. I mean, I literally, we only had one radio station in town that had carried the Gators. So, I listened to the Gator broadcast every Saturday. I was Steve Spurrier fan. I loved him, and
I was
just amazing.
fan.
And I thought he was great and everything like that. And so come my senior year, all of a sudden, you got Auburn looking at you, Clemson looking at you, you got Florida State, Miami looking at you, you got all these schools offering you scholarships, Notre Dame and all. And I really still thought I was going to go to University of Florida. Then I visited Florida State. And then when I studied the offenses that Florida State ran and what Florida ran and the others ran, back in those days, you were
FSU flew past more,
and Florida ran. A lot of the other schools ran the option. We had the old triple option back in those days, and that was a big threat for the defenses. And so I looked at it and said the best situation for me, if I ever want to go any further after college, would be to play at Florida State, because they ran a pro style offense, and a lot of coaches were coming to learn it. From, we had
FSU.
Bobby Bowden was the head assistant coach there. You had Dan Henning was an assistant coach there. Joe Gibbs was an assistant coach in Florida. All those guys were on the staff at one time under Bill Peterson, learning that style of offense, and because they could take it to the college or to the pros and worked it. Bill Peterson was a great innovator of that style of offense. So I chose to go to Florida State, and I've never regretted it. It was a great opportunity for me. I did well there at Florida State and got a chance to move on to the next level.
Yeah, go figure. You went into the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dan, why did you take the NFL thing?
And then you were drafted by the Chargers, my favorite team, and you had an interesting guy drafted at the same time.
Yeah, ended up being my roommate on the road that year was Dan Fouts.
That's crazy, man.
Danny Fouts and I became. It's so funny. I was a 15th round draft pick. Now you don't have 15 rounds today. There was like 19 tight ends drafted, and I was probably the 14th or 15th tight end drafted. But my program had me at 6'3", 210. Well, you don't draft a 210 tight end. You try to pick him up as a free agent if he looks good. And so I went and played in the Hall of Fame Bowl over in Tampa, and I was there practicing and everything, and had a lot of these agents and scouts came by, were looking at the game. And one of the scouts came from Philadelphia. He says, "You look bigger than 210 pounds. How much you weigh?" And I said, 230. I've been 230 all year, but your program says 210. He says, we've kind of written you up. See, they don't do a combine.
Yeah.
We didn't have a combine. We didn't have pro days at school back then. So it was a disadvantage for me, but San Diego Chargers, one of our assistant coaches, Red Phillips, who played at Auburn, was a receiver for the Chargers, and he coached there. And he sent them and said, I got you a tight end that can play. And so I ended up going to the Chargers, being there with Dan Fouts, and had fun, and then went to played with Cleveland, and then ended up with the St. Louis Cardinals. I finished my last 2 years with St. Louis.
You played with some pretty big names.
Yeah.
I looked at the list, man.
I had Brian Sipe was a quarterback. Somebody asked me who had the best pass you ever caught, and I'd say Brian Sipe. It was a soft pass. When I say soft, I mean it was like it hit your hands. You had time to really tuck. Jim Hart, who was the quarterback at the Cardinals at the time, threw one of the tightest passes, and he threw it hard. We were playing the Steelers, which was an old rivalry of mine when I was with the Browns, and I had about a window. In the NFL, your window is about 1 foot in of getting the ball through sometimes. In high school, it's about 4 feet, 5 feet. College, it's about 2.5, maybe 2 feet or 3 feet. In pros, you get that window of opportunity is 1 foot sometimes. And that's how good those guys are. And you better catch it when it comes to you.
1977 was a pretty good year for you.
Yes. I had 5 touchdowns, if I remember.
Led the team.
Yeah.
That
was fun.
And then the next year they drafted some little-known guy named Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah, you should have. Sam Retigliano was a good friend, and Sam went to Liberty, and UCF would play Liberty a couple times, and I got a chance to talk with Sam and everything. Sam was such a great guy. He's the one that told me that when I had a chance to go, you got 2 teams looking at you: the Dolphins, which I loved, and the St. Louis Cardinals, which I didn't want to go, but because of their record, I ended up going to St. Louis because they had the worst record of the 2 teams. I wanted to play at the Dolphins. Dolphins had their tight end had broken his leg.
How did that work back then? Because free agency wasn't the deal. How did you?
It was like you would go on the market, and what they did is that they would put your name out there, and Sam had told me, he says, look, I'm going to put you out. If nobody claims you, I'm going to bring you back because I'm definitely going to have 3 tight ends. But he said, I want to give you a chance to play. Ozzie, he goes, what do you think of Ozzie? And the first time he asked me that, it was a couple weeks before. And he goes, what do you think? What do you think of Newsome? And I go, where am I headed? Ozzie Newsome was probably one of the... He was not a great blocker, and that was one of the things I did really well. I was the aggressive, the blocker. When it was 3rd and 1, everybody in the league knew it was coming my side. Okay, but they still had to tackle it. They still had to stop it, and they couldn't. And we did a good job. We had an offensive tackle, and I got along really well at Cleveland, and he was a big guy, and I was determined to make that block. And so those little stories like that, I ended up getting to play a lot more, but with Ozzie out there, Ozzie's going to catch the passes. He blew right by people. He was my best time, Dan, was in the 40 at Cleveland was like 4.81, and then Ozzie gets there, he runs a 4.58 or a 4.6, and the receivers, wide receivers weren't even running hardly those kind of.
So he's like a freak at the position.
Oh, he's that. He is the Kettles and the Kelseys of our era, of today.
How big was
Ozzie was about 6'2", weighed about 225.
Wow, that's all?
That's it. 230 at the most. But he had gift. He was back then. A tight end was, if you weighed 265, 70 pounds, you were going to be a guard or a center. And
people weren't as big even back then.
Yeah, well, if you were 300 pounds, you were called fat. And that was the way the game was played. They put you on diets, get you off, and everything like that. Today, if you don't weigh 300 pounds, you're too little. They want you to get 300 pounds. But then the guys are taller today, too. I mean, the athletes are bigger. They train better. Well, they got better equipment, better management of their time when they're off season. Those things all add up, whereas we had to work a second job, most of us in the off season.
Yeah, the money wasn't
there. The money wasn't there. Oh my goodness, we could talk about NIL in college and all that they have now, what we didn't have, but the game is still played. Same 53 yards to sideline, 100 yards between goal to goal, and that part of the game hasn't changed. It's just the athletes are a lot bigger and better. Today, the game is, they protect the athlete a lot more. And rightfully so, because of the concussions that are out there and all. But back then we didn't call it a concussion. We said it was like you got your bell rung.
Yeah, I remember that.
How many times you get your bell rung? You know what I mean? Played Oakland one game, opening kickoff, going down to cover the kickoff. I'm about ready to bust through the wedge, and I get blindsided, and I wake up in the 3rd quarter.
Really?
Yes.
Is that the hardest you've ever hit?
Yes, and well, it was a couple times my helmet went flying off when Jack Tatum ripped me off my head.
Oh, really?
One
You
time.
got hit by Jack Tatum?
Yeah, yes. Oh my goodness.
Can you remember it to this day? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. I got hit with my helmet. I had to go look for my helmet.
He was bad, huh?
Oh yeah, one game we were playing and I took a hit on special teams, and I got up and I started wandering and walking and I started walking toward the other side, and the official grabbed me and says, "Wrong side, Parris. Wrong side. You need to get over here." He called timeout and he called our trainer in. He says, "I took a knee in the head." And the game. There's no telling how many concussions, guys. We just won't. We didn't know. I mean, the trainer would walk up to you and he'd look at you and he'd put up 3 fingers in front of you, and he'd say, "Parris, how many of those do you see? There should be 3."
Oh, so
If you said you had to stay in the game.
It should be. Wow. Hey, now in retirement, were you able to get into retirement?
Oh yeah, yes.
I thought it was-
They have done us a much better job. When I came out of the league, a quick story if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
When I was in San Diego, and one of the veterans told me, he goes, you need to play the game as long as you can to get your pension. He said 5 years back then. He said to me, he says, "Look, my days are up. I know I'm done." And he goes, "But you get in this game," he says, "do whatever you have to get those 5 years. Now, it may not seem a lot now, but sometime we're down the road, we're going to, it's going to be bigger and it's going to get stronger and there's going to be more money put in this game. TV's coming." He said, "TV is going to be involved in the next decade and down the road. So there's going to be an opportunity for you to make a good living. So get your 5 years." And then when got in there, I never forget when I played that opening game on my 5th year in the league. I was qualified. I got a pension. I knew I did. I had a pension. So now you want to add more to it and everything like that. But it was a big thing to get, and he was right.
Oh, that's
right.
Yeah. Go ahead. Continue.
All right. Well, the guy that told me that story, and Ed, you may know him. Dan, you may know, was John Mackey.
Oh, wow, yeah.
John Mackey was one of the great tight ends that played the game. He played for the Colts with Johnny Unitas, and Johnny Unitas was out there. Yes, he was a teammate of mine, and my very first pass I caught in exhibition season was from Unitas.
Wow.
I was so excited I forgot to run. But John Mackey was the one that told me that, and John was involved with the players union and everything, and John died of dementia. He had a problem with, he's one of the reasons today that the NFL takes it so serious about concussions and everything. So John was a class guy, just classy guy all the way through, and it was a pleasure to play for somebody, play with a guy like him.
Yeah. What was the that first game? Was that the most memorable NFL game that you played in, or was there another one?
Well, I had a game against in '77. We were playing the New England Patriots, and New England was really, really favored to beat us.
That was Monday night.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Monday night, and they were favored to just whip all over us, and they were doing a pretty good job at halftime. And I remember Forrest Gregg goes, "All right, enough's enough. Put Sipe in, put Parris in, put Dave Logan in, I want the young guys to play. I want all of them to get in the game now." So we come out the second half, and man, I was like, wow. I caught a pass, and then next thing you know, I'm going down the field, and we call this play, and I make this move I've made hundreds of times in practice and everything. I planted in the ball, and Brian Sipe threw the most perfect pass, Dan, that just laid in your hands. And I caught it and went into the end zone. It was my first touchdown in the NFL. Wow. I was so excited, I didn't even know how to spike it right. I about took you know what off when I threw it down and went right through my legs and almost. And I remember Greg Pruitt coming over to me. He says, "For $100, I'll teach you how to spike a ball." The running back, he's a great running back with us, and so that was a great game. We came back and we won.
30-27.
Yeah, we came back and won that game, down and came back the second half. So after that, I got some more playing time and just enjoyed my career.
Yeah,
It was fun.
did you know when it was done?
Yeah, we were playing on field, AstroTurf, not field turf, but AstroTurf in St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis was like the old Cardinal baseball stadium. It was hard as a rock.
Yeah.
And we were playing the Minnesota Vikings. And I went down and I made a cut, made a move, and there's that pass, that 1 foot pass right there. Jim Hart hit me. I turned and wanted to take off, but my shoe got caught in that turf.
Uh-oh.
And it wouldn't turn. My leg pop, I could hear the pop.
No.
And immediately I fell to the ground, and it was then they knew I tore it, and I came back the next year for the next year, and I was having a really good year with St. Louis that year, off to a good start. I think I'd caught 12 or 14 passes or so, and I knew I was going to have a good year. I could really feel it, and it just popped, boom, right there, and then. You go that whole season, getting the rest of the season, getting ready and everything, and we came back in an exhibition game. Otis Anderson was our running back.
Good one.
Yes, and I was blocking downfield. I had just got the starting job back. He told me. Harry Gilmore was our offensive coordinator and our receiver. He says, "You're my starter. You start. You fought back. You won it. So get out there and have fun." Caught a pass on the sideline, tiptoed in. I was like, okay, this is fun, man. It's going to be like a good year. And I'm about 12 yards downfield blocking, and Anderson makes a cut, rolls up on my leg, and right behind me, and all of a sudden stretched the ligaments on the other knee. So I was put on injured reserve at that time, which means you had to sit out at least half a season. And that's when I knew that I came back in and got into one game and the last game of the year. And the coach let me go out with having dressed out the last.
And then you said to yourself, "I think I'm going to go play softball with Ed Rose."
Yeah, that was all the way on my mind.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the first thing came to your mind. Oh, damn crazy Ed Rose. Well, listen, let me ask you two questions. We'll move on to broadcasting.
Because I want to get into broadcasting. The one question is, what was your favorite or best moment in the NFL?
I think that the coming back and beating the Patriots. One of the others was I had a good game. And we were playing the Dolphins, and we beat the Dolphins. And
Your favorite team?
Yeah, my favorite team, and it was Jim Kidd, Larry Zonka, Bob Creasy out there, these guys. And the good thing was we had Paul Warfield on our team. That
remember.
He went. Remember the old? I guess it was the United States Football League, or
USFL.
Something. It was like it now. But they were out there drafting, taking ball players, and they had Paul Warfield and Jim Kick at one time. They went with another team. And Warfield came over and he finished his career. He was an Ohio State guy, so he finished up at the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I do remember that. Now the last one is, what did you learn in the NFL that carried you through your life?
That excuse me, it's. You are an elite individual if you play at that level. I mean, in high school, my dream was to want to play one day in the NFL. Every kid probably has that dream. And Ed, if I told you and Dan that it's so minute, a kid out of high school ever getting a shot to play.
Yeah, I hear that.
it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, and it's got to be something inside you that burns. It's something that you may not see that opportunity. And there were plenty of times that when I was in the NFL that I had to learn a different position to keep myself in there. I was a backup. I was a third team center. In case two went down, I was there. I was the backup long snapper on punts and extra points and field goals. I was the backup punter. I mean, I could do those things halfway decent. I could have probably, if I'd taken punting real serious, I probably could have been a punter in the NFL. But those, you just had to find your way to stick in. And the thing I learned was that hard work does pay off, and that it's there's not one kid. The ones that think they got their owed do not make it in this league. They won't last. You think you got all the talent. Everybody, they give you only get so many chances. And the more talent you get, you're going to get an extra chance. But a kid like me, when I came in, I had to make the best of it. You had to build a reputation of being tough. You had to build that kind of a kid of a hard worker and everything like that. So it helped me with my life afterwards. And the other thing too, and as you see, I'm a deacon at our church. I was able to get close to the Lord through Fellowship of Christian Athletes and other organizations that they had. The NFL had a great organization where you have chapel before the games and everything like that. And I was really with a lot of good guys. And to this day, I try to carry on teaching the young kids.
Well, you got history that really the young kids relate to, and just what you shared with us here, that was really well said.
Mm-hmm.
It was really well said. That didn't surprise me. But now the big question is, why broadcasting?
Well, it's really funny. When I got back from NFL, I was going to go out and I was going to help volunteer as a coach. I had an opportunity to get into the citrus business and that, and had a couple of companies wanted me to get in marketing with them, and also I was looking into that, and the gentleman had taken the job or had done it before me at Vero Beach High School. He was an ex-coach and everything, and he decided he wasn't going to do it, so they needed somebody. So I was just fresh right out of the NFL, and I remember my first year was Billy Living's. It was the year they won the state championship.
Wow.
That was my first. So my first year as a broadcaster at Vero Beach High School was the state championship.
So basically, you brought them good luck.
I don't know about that,
but
but I will say this though, and I did get credit for it. Billy did say this. I did put in a lot of offensive play on pass plays. We never threw the ball, but we threw a lot of quick passes that game to loosen up their defense, and then Vero Beach won the state championship.
Cool.
But broadcasting was fun. That's how I got involved. It started there. Gene McDowell recruited me at Florida State. When he became the head coach at UCF, they had to part ways with their color analyst, and Gene McDowell asked me to come up and interview with the play-by-play guy. And we sat down and we talked and we interviewed, and
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Was the interview actually like a job interview, or did you have to call a game with him?
No, he had some tapes that I had. We had taped the game, and I sent some of it up there to him at Vero Beach High School. So he listened to that. Then I interviewed with him, and he was looking for somebody that literally that could work with him.
Mm.
And
Chemistry.
the chemistry. He was looking for chemistry, and he lasted about one more year, I think, and then Mark Daniels, who's there now.
Yeah, he's if you look up
broadcaster
and his personality
or just the aura, I don't know what it is, but he's a special person.
he's got the voice.
Got the voice for
He's
sure.
got the voice
Yes.
to do it.
Yeah.
And he is so intellectually, he knows the stats. He's got all the stats in front of him. All I got to do is break down the play, get excited, which I do. I'm one of those broadcasters that Ed Rose just made this fantastic catch. Oh my goodness. Out of nowhere, Ed just leaps up, grabs that ball, takes it, tucks it down, gets the first down, and now the Knights got a chance to go on and win this game. See,
Boy, I wish that was true.
I listened to that.
Yeah, man. I'm thinking, did I ever do that?
but that's
Yeah,
my
no,
excitement.
no, I
And
know, I've
get-
listened to you, buddy.
I've got about 10 seconds or 15, then I got to give
Come
it
on.
back to the
Give it back in.
to the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, well, you do a great job.
Yeah,
with
I've
that.
listened to your broadcast. They're good. You're good.
Thank you very much. I'm a little humbled by it, but I do enjoy it, and that's one of those things. I love watching football. I love listening to other announcers and try to pick up and learn things from them.
Is there one broadcaster that kind of like you?
You can't ever imagine him, but John Madden was probably one of my most favorite people to listen to. I couldn't imitate him at all because his knowledge of the game was so, he called the play, or he was involved with it. He was involved with the game from every aspect of it. He was like a CEO of the Raiders when he was there.
Yeah.
So when he got in the booth, he just knew it all. He knew every aspect of the game.
I loved it when he did that thing on the screen where you circle it, and he had his own terminology for stuff.
A lot of booms and whacks.
He became very famous over that, for sure. Now, so you got broadcasting, which is a tremendous career there. And what was the public service drive when being a city councilman? I get
think-
the Little League. I mean, the boys were
the
there.
boys were there, and I wanted to help Little League, and I got involved, and parents would come up to me and say, "Why don't you run for be president of our league or something?" So you do those things, but as a city councilman, I really wanted to serve our community and to make it better. I think Vero Beach is one of the best well kept secrets in the state of Florida because it's such a beautiful town. It's we're not well populated like others in the state of Florida, and it's just a gem on we call it the Treasure Coast, and so you wanted to be a part of that, and you wanted to try to keep that the aura of your community, and you wanted to help the business. I was a businessman. I wanted to help them. I wanted to make sure they had a representation on the city council, and not a bunch of retired people that want to see no growth or
No growth.
yeah, and growth is good to a certain extent, but you've got to plan for it. But you need to take care of your business people. The people there that back then we didn't have all these chain restaurants popping around. The mom and pop stores were very important, and so you had to work with them and try to help them make a good living. The same stores that when I was a kid I grew up and going to.
And you went to, yeah.
So I enjoyed that, but I didn't like the politics. I do not.
No,
I was getting. They wanted me to run again, and I just said no. I said, there was a group that didn't like me over on a certain area, our community, and they were working. They're going to work against you. They're going to spend money, and they're looking for ways to get you. And I said, I don't want to do that. I never was
politician.
I was never really a politician.
You don't like conflict that much.
I didn't like
It's
it.
easy.
I just want to help people.
Yeah, I got you.
That was my whole thing. Was I don't care about being a Republican or a Democrat. Back at City Council, you were everybody had to be. There was no.
There knows Republican.
Yeah, there was nothing. You just were a
Councilman.
Councilman. Yeah, and I like that. But you make people mad when you do something or you say something that they don't particularly like.
Did Tommy win his councilmanship or not?
Tommy was talking about Tommy Lowder.
Yeah, right.
Tommy Lowder did not win, but he served several terms as a county commissioner.
Oh, he did.
He was a very good county commissioner. Yes, he was.
He's
He was real good. He got out of it. I hated to see him to get out of it, but his business has taken off, and now
Well,
that's a bad thing
we
to
got to
say.
bring that. We got to bring that up. Tommy Lawler's business is.
He is.
You'll see how funny it is when
Oh my
if Gary
God!
gets it
He
out.
has a funeral home.
That's why his business is.
And the old joke you don't like about it. Hey, Tommy, how's business? Is it dead today or what? You know? And he says, "Oh, okay, I've heard that from so many times."
Yeah.
But Tommy took a business, opened it up under his name, and he spent years in the business. And Tommy does a great job, and that's why we talk about Tommy.
I'm not looking forward to it. I got free cremation. He told me I get free cremated free. Well, listen, there's one thing I've always admired about you. You were a religious man back when we were young. You still are. You believe your faith and you live your faith. What I would ask you, is there anything you would do differently than the wonderful life you already have? Is there anything that you might do differently in your life?
You get people to ask that question, and I married my high school sweetheart, so how can I, I was blessed. I was blessed with that. I have 4 children. I have 9 grandchildren, and I've got 6 great grandkids now. And I just turned in the 70s, and
you still got your hair.
Yeah, and so I'm blessed. I don't think that I would do anything different. I don't play that game. I love the game of life. I love the hand that's dealt to me, and I always felt God's putting me there for a reason. And mine is to try to figure out, what does He want from me? What is He asking me to do today? What is it that I need to work on? And so I would say I've been blessed, and I feel honored. And I love my family. I love my life.
You got a great family. Your kids are great. I'm trying to. Have I missed anything in covering what we?
We could keep.
Well, yeah, we could. Yeah, but we're pretty much to the end, right? Yeah. So let me see if I can. Is there anything that you didn't say you'd like to say?
No, Ed. I admire what you and Dan are doing. I mean, being in the business and broadcasting at Vero Beach High School. We do a little podcast during football season. Just during football and basketball season, we talk about the football to each game that week and
analyze it with the coach. Maybe.
Yeah, and we do, and we have we talk about the past game, and we do a podcast of that nature, but we don't do it more than just football season. And we get about maybe 400 or 500 hits, and
that's pretty good.
Well, but you got to understand, you're in a town that football,
yeah.
And they hear football. I mean, we do our YouTube station. We do Vero Beach Nation on with that. I mean, the game we just played. The funny thing about that, or this, people can go back and they'll watch a game. You've got your regular listeners that don't go to the stadium, but they can watch it on YouTube. Listen to us. The broadcast is still the same one you would get on. That was a hard thing to do, is to talk like you're on TV, but you're on radio. And you're talking like you're on radio, and they said, well, I just saw that. Why is he breaking that down like that? You're so used to, as an analyst, you're trying to, you don't want, and if you don't say what it is, the people say, well, what happened on radio? But it was, we had to learn how to mix and match that. But we have a good listening crowd down there for in our county. I mean, it's we had like we had Osceola. We played that team this past year with Walker, who signed with UCF, who's a big defensive lineman, and did a great job. He had a great spring game. And
did you have anything to do with it?
Huh?
Did you have anything?
No, I didn't. And
no influence. Huh?
No influence. I try not to as much as I possibly can, except I do wear my UCF hat. And the good thing is that we had a kid from Vero Beach that signed with Florida State. Now he knew I played for Florida State. He was a wide receiver, and Drayvon, we call him Dre, Jacobs, and he's one of these freshmen that had a fantastic spring, and he's on their to watch list as the kid to watch.
He's now at FSU.
FSU, yeah, he was up there. He had a great spring. He graduated in December and went right to FSU, and he's done really well up there. He hasn't even played an official game yet, but his first spring. And but it's hard to get a kid, and we can talk about this. Another topic is the portal in high school.
Yeah,
high school kills the portal. I mean, the portal kills high school.
High school, yeah.
Because normally you get 25 picks out of you get each year. You get 25. Well, now you got to save your portal picks, and you got to save your high school. If a lineman leaves you to go to, say, Dan's school, and all of a sudden he's been with you for 2 or 3 years, well, you can't replace him with a rookie. You can't go out and recruit.
You got to go in the portal.
You got to go in the portal and get a veteran. Try to get a veteran offensive lineman that has been through the program and understands it. But that kid that's in high school that would love to play for you, and in 2 years he's going to be a good one. You don't have 2 years to get that kid ready now.
I never thought about that.
That's
so what are they going to do about that? I mean, it's going to hurt eventually.
It's the hardest thing. The hardest thing really is NIL too, because
NIL is
it's name, image, and likeness.
Oh,
you can pay kids. It's the pay to play. Kids today are paid. They're getting paid. They're getting paid to play the game. I mean,
we lost listeners because this is new.
Yeah.
Just explain who pays.
Well,
for this.
Your boosters have organization collective groups, and what they do is that every school has that, and they go out and they got to raise $2 or $3 million to either. Then you got to keep your kids that are on your roster, so because they can go to another school. Like we lost a center to Miami, a 3-year starter. He had 2 years left. We lost him to Miami for $250,000. And those.
How explain that? What 200? How did he get 250?
He gets a portion of it when he commits. He gets a portion of it when he signs, and then he gets so many games into the season.
So that pays his schooling too.
No, that's above and beyond his scholarship and his meals and everything. That's cash in his pocket. NIL has become a very, very hard thing for people to imagine. The old timers like you and I, you played for the love of the game, and you played for your love of your school. You didn't transfer, to go to another school. Well, today kids can transfer. They've been transferring every year, but now the league has said you got this is it. You got one transfer now, and you got that one free one. And after that, you lose a year. So, but the problem is that it's about the money. We lost our best wide receiver at UCF to Boston College. He just got paid more money than we can.
From the athlete standpoint, the objection before was they did all this work, and unlike the pro where they got rewarded for their efforts,
right.
They felt exploited.
Yeah.
Is there a balance? So
it was hard to come about, and what the NCAA did is they just kind of like, okay, this is what you guys want. We're going to watch. We can't manage it. You guys are going to have to manage it yourself.
The schools?
Yes, because we don't have enough personnel. We don't have enough people that can. You want this. This is what you guys now figure out how to go about managing it. And I don't know if they're going to put a time or like an amount that you can't, go over, or each team can do $200 or $2 million a year for, But you got a school like Texas, and I'm not picking on Texas, but they got oil out there. They probably got $100 million. They just paid the Manning kid, and they paid another kid. They got more money into quarterbacks than most teams.
They gave a lot of money to the Manning kid?
Oh, a ton of money. They're talking about he probably got more money over his career than he would his rookie year in the NFL.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
But
You ought to do me a
Manning
favor.
kid's supposed to be better than all of them.
You do me a favor, you two, when you get a chance. study it, because it is, as a sports enthusiast, you'll appreciate that, especially with football season coming up and all, to how difficult it is with a program like UCF. Now we're going into the Big 12, and it's tough though when you've got the largest college in the country, but you don't have the largest alumni because it's still a young school.
Sure.
It's a young school. You got University of Florida. They got guys.
They made some probably billionaires.
Yes, and they've been alumnus for
Bull Gators.
70 years.
Yeah.
In the organization. So it's hard to, when you go up against those kind of schools. It's out there. I'm all for the players. I thought the players should have gotten more than just their laundry money. But I always felt that it should have been, every scholarship player should get the same across the board. But that's not what they're doing today. Today it's called NIL. We call it pay to play.
Pay to play. Well, listen, Gary, this has been a great interview, and I guess the way we wrap this up is to ask you: is there anything that you'd like to maybe? What would you tell young men that are still have their football dreams? How should they behave in this environment?
Yeah, if you want to continue to play the game and go on, you've got to be a realistic person in your mind. Is that you've got to know that, hey, I got some skilled talents that a lot of kids don't have. The thing I would tell every kid to do is, if he goes to college, gets an opportunity to go to college, don't look at it as you're going to the next step. Look at it, get that education. Get the education, because that'll go with you the rest of your life. The odds of you making it are slim and none, and to make it in the NFL from high school. But get that college education. With that opens up a lot of doors, no matter what color you are, or whatever you choose to be. That education is so important for your future, because to me that's the key to it. And a lot of kids don't understand it. You talk to high school kids and, I'm going to play in the NFL. The odds no, you're not. Okay, well you did. Well, I'm just telling you, the odds are that you won't make it. Now it doesn't say you will or you won't, but it just tells you you won't. You better get your education first, I tell them. So I tell young people today, live a good life, stay out of trouble, and avoid conflict, avoid problems. Don't be the controversy, don't be the conversation, and get yourself an education.
Well said, my friend, and a great, and I just think we cut off somehow. That was well said. I just had a mic blip for some reason. It was a great interview, Gary. As I told Dan, the time is going to fly because Gary's got them stories. But it was more than it was insightful, and it was educational for the young people out there if they ever listen to this, and maybe the older audience that we have will pass it on to the young people and their families. Dano, anything on the exit?
Can we have him back again? Because I'm not done. I got 2 hours more of questions.
No, dude, we got another guy who's waiting on the other line. So let's take us home, buddy.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
My pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Gary Parris, brought to you by the Dugout, Big Ed and Dan. Please hit subscribe for this YouTube channel. Thank you, folks.